All right. I think we are live.
Great.
All right. So, hi everyone. My name is Amber from Thinkific. I work on our product marketing team, and I'm here with Jacob from Procurify. So, Jacob, just to start off, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and how you came to work at Procurify?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Jacob at Procurify. My role here is training and certifications manager. So I'm kind of in charge of all of the content training for internal, but also external as well too. I've been at Procurify for about 2.5 years now. And my background was mostly in training, but not external. It was more training people on how to use internal tools and things like that. Previous job. So when I came over to Procurify, I knew that there was an opportunity for me to continue doing that. I came in as a support agent, so it wasn't all right off the bat. But when I noticed that there was an opportunity for it, I kind of jumped in feet first and started taking it on. So in addition to doing that chat role, I was also training new hires. There was a big error that we went through in, I think, 2017, 2018. And it was kind of week after week I was training people, and it ended up being that there was so many people coming through that it was able to become my full-time role at Procurify. So now my main just focusing, making sure anytime that person comes into Procurify, new team member, I'm training them and making sure they know how to use the form, as well as any we're launching with a new client, making sure that they know how to use it as well too.
Very cool. And then, so can you tell me a bit about how Procurify works and a bit about the business as a whole?
Yeah, for sure. So we're a management platform. Essentially, we just kind of make all the process of purchasing, requesting, creating bills a little bit simpler and a little bit easier to use.
Mm-hmm.
So we integrate with different account platforms. Ideally, you create requests for items in Procurify, create purchase orders, create bills, and then export it out into your accounting platform and kind of complete the processing over there. But overall, it's a much more user-friendly way to get better results as far as requesting. So if you're trying to track down somebody to approve an order of yours, or if you've ever been on the other end and you're trying to find who actually approved an order when you didn't have budgeted for it, Procurify kind of helps you see those things along the way without you having to go to the month and figure out who spent money on what and why did they do it. You're kind of involved in the whole process.
Very cool. And it's also neat that you guys are...
Oh, sorry, I can't hear you right now.
Oh, can you hear me now? I'm a little closer to the mic.
Let me see if it's on my end.
Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties. Can you hear me okay now? Jacob? Hello? Sorry about that, guys. Just try and fix this quickly.
Sorry.
Can't hear me? So I guess then what we'll do is I will just quickly message Jacob the next question.
I've got you. I'm sorry.
Oh, you hear me? You now. Okay,
that's a great idea, though. If this happens again, message it to me. I will multitask and solve the problem while in the question session. So hopefully it doesn't again.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't again. But, so I just was saying that one of the great things is Procurify is also based in Vancouver. So both of us are local companies, which is neat. So the next question I have is, how did you go from training your team on the product side in person to using Thinkific, and what were some of the benefits and the results of switching to using an online education platform?
Really good question. So when I came in, I was doing all of that training one-on-one. So sometimes we would hire a large group of people, so maybe 4 to 5 people would come in. That was okay. That would make sense to train that many people, but there was a lot of times where we would hire 1 or 2 people at a time, and I would spend 2 training them, meeting with them several hours per day, several hours per week across 2 weeks. And that, like I said, when we went through that big hiring boom there, That ended up taking out a lot of time from me and able to do the other things that I was also at the time. I realized it wasn't going to scale. So I was looking into different alternatives for actually training people. Some of the things as well too that I got that were feedback from the people that are going through the training. There was no good way to go back and review the content. They trained them in person outside of notes that they had taken or following up with me again. So after doing that for about 6 months, I started looking into getting an LMS. Thinkific seemed like a really simple and easy to use tool. I had known about it being from Vancouver as well too, and hearing about you guys. So it was kind of the first one I went to, and I looked at it like this is the one. I don't get anywhere else. So switch from that live in training to working with Thinkific was so much more. It was a lot better for me to at time, like I said, to other things in the other project I was working on. The content was so much easier to get through and go for the students, so they watch it at their own learning pace. They could review it. They could go back if they had other questions, and I could be sure that the training was comprehensive. Because if I was going and doing this week in week out, there might be things that would slip through the cracks. It gets repetitive and doing it over and over again. So one group might not have the exact same training that the pre-group went through, just freaking error and the way that people ask questions and prompt other kinds of topics to come up as well.
Very cool. That's a great reason to do so. And I'd love to just show a bit quickly on what the platform that you guys have created is. So you can see here, can you just talk us through a little bit of what everyone is seeing on screen of what this portal is?
Yeah, for sure. This is kind of if you were looking at doing some training on Procurify from an external standpoint, this is where our clients go to access all the training that I've created. So a space theme of lift off everything at Procurify is all space themed. And essentially what you would do is, depending on your role in the system, so if you're using Procurify to purchase, which is create purchase orders, buy items or receive, you would fit the appropriate bundle for you. So if you're going to be an approver, it's going to walk you through everything you need to know in the system as far as being an approver. So you through what Procurify is as a platform, how to request them, and how to approve.
Yeah, so here's the example of one of the courses that you would do. And just as Jacob was saying, if you look around on the side, it takes you through each of the modules that you can go into. It has different forms of presentations, and this is what they're using for both customers and internal. So very neat. And so in terms of when you were getting this off the ground, what were some of the tips / tactics for starting an employee education program that you'd want to share with someone who hasn't done it before?
Yeah, I would say take an objective look at what you actually have right now. So when I came into Procurify, there's some training. It wasn't done by anyone that was specifically to do that role. So while there was training happening, it wasn't great for the people that were running it. It wasn't great for the people that were going through it. And so I would start there and I would see like how you're actually training people. How information shared? Is it person to person? Is there gotten documents for people to access? And if there are, how easy are those to access? Because if it's just dumped in a folder, then it's going to be impossible to find and go off of the training. So is it the best way for people to learn? There's a safety net in place. A lot of the training that we were doing was accessing third-party videos and things like that. So if those videos get taken down, we don't have ownership over those. What's the plan in case that happens? If there's just one person doing all the training and they don't have it written down, like admittedly that was me until Thinkific. What happens if something happens to me? What if I'm able to continue doing the training, or what if I change my role and do something different? I'm kind of stuck there. There's no backup plan.
Yeah.
And then finally, I think the biggest question was this really the best of the resources, the time, and the energy is putting into it? Because like I mentioned, there was about 15 hours across a couple different departments on training each week when we were going through our busiest hiring time. So it really didn't feel the best use of time. Did it first, and then it stopped at one point. So yeah, really ask yourself these questions. Try and see if this is honestly the best way that you're doing things right now. If there's a better way.
Well, and I imagine because when you were brought on, as you mentioned, that was before the hypergrowth really started happening, and I know that Procurify has been scaling very quickly since then. So, and being a leaner team at the time of when you started, it was probably also beneficial to be able to spread that work around as opposed to having to hire an additional person. You could just use the software.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was no brainer in that way.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then so when you started the training program, you saw success with it. The HR team also became involved on that. So from the product training, can you discuss how it's evolved since then and where you guys are taking it next from an employee training standpoint?
Yeah, so initially it was done as the product and platform just to get people and onboarded. Now we're not switching, but adding more onto the courses that we have currently. So right now we had in place was a lot of the baseline, everything you need to know about Procurify as a platform, but we're always adding new features, we're always changing, we're always trying to get people more update on different parts of the system. So not only is this product training, our HR team is all using it to onboard new people. So when they join Procurify, they're creating one account to access all the content for product training or company training. So just kind of who we are as a company. And now we're spread even further and trying to bring in more role specific training. So if you join and you're on the sales team and you aren't sure which tools we use, the different forms that we have access to, and essentially the different kind of things you'll be doing in your day-to-day role work, we want to make up to the same high standards that we had for our product and for HR training, and just make it a little bit more consistent across the board. Doing that, we're also going to look at some industry topics. So right now we're building out a big financial training course in Thinkific. So when people come in, we can now hire people that don't have financial background because we've set up a course, or we're in the process of setting up a course right now, where you come in and you'll learn all of the financial stuff in working in fintech without having that financial background.
Very cool. And then so that's a lot of exciting stuff that you guys are using for coming up, which is great. So what do you think the best type of education would be for employee training? So you mentioned a few. Are there anything that you see in common with the type of training that you're using?
Sorry, could you repeat the first half of the question there? You cut out a little tiny.
Yeah, no worries. Just in terms of the type of content that you would select for training your employees, that you're creating these courses, the product course, the HR course, now this role-specific training and finance training. Is there anything in common in terms of the type of structure or the content itself that makes it a good choice for online training?
Yeah, so with all things, we want to make sure that people are getting the most of their time that they're spending with them. So the common pieces that come across are the ability to put in different feedback forms. So people are going and it's not making sense, then we can be agile and we can make to it. We can also throw quizzes in there as well to make sure that people are actually getting the actual learning objectives out of going through the training and making sure that they're not just spending time watching videos, not actually getting anything out of it. But yeah, as far as commonality across all of the different courses, they're all kind of set in the same way. It's an introduction to that we're looking at, some videos, some voiceovers, some walkthroughs, some supporting document for going through everything that you've watched go through, and then wrapping up with some feedback and some quizzes and things like that.
Very cool. And then, we'll just quickly flip back to show that. So as Jacob mentioned, there's the actual introduction to the course that is at the front. And then as you head down, it goes into the course recap. And as he mentioned, the final survey where you can put feedback, which I think is a really good takeaway. As you're building out your education program, as Jacob mentioned, it's really important to get as much info from your students as possible to be able to make iterations on and continue to improve it. So now, in addition to the employee education side, Procurify also has some interesting things that you've flipped over to in terms of customer education. So can you tell me a little bit about the transition process to focusing on customer education instead?
Yeah, for sure. So when I initially went out to create this content, I had it with an internal audience in mind, not an external audience. That being said, I kind of know that the way content and you create internally, it ends up getting shared internally. So I tried to keep that in mind as I was making this content. Essentially, I didn't want to put anything in there that was confidential. That was more for the like the supplemental materials that we kept in the think of it courses. So for creating that video content, it was originally internal only. We had a new hire come in, a director of customer success, and she saw the content as she was going through her onboarding internally, and said, "This is great. Let's get this out to our clients." So from there, it was a really quick pivot. Because that content didn't contain any confidential materials, I was able to duplicate the course in Thinkific, remove anything that we wouldn't want seeing externally, and then essentially publishing it and pushing it out to our clients.
Very cool. That's great that you had the foresight to ensure or understood that most likely things would potentially get out, and to build out your content to have it be internally facing for your employee education side. And that also Procurify really cares about their staff being fully up to date on the product and understanding it fully. I think that's something that's pretty unique about you guys, and definitely something that's worked out really well. So in terms of when you launched that program, were there any initial difficulties you had to go through, or learning curves for the difference between the employee education side and the customer education side?
Yeah, so there was a lot of curves. So when we launched it, kind of launched it as beta. I think it's still technically in beta if you scroll down further on that page yet. But as I'll get into, my own worst critic comes to this kind of stuff. So far as our first initial launch, we just kind of took what we had internally, which was, here's the entire Procurify platform. You need to learn it, go through it all. So we essentially replicated that and sent it out to our clients externally. The feedback that we got kind of immediately was the course was too long for people. And so if you're scrolling through this page right here, this is, as the further we get down the system, the more and more you're learning about Procurify. Mm-hmm. And so if the majority of our users are just going to be requesting in Procurify, don't need to go through super user liftoff, for example, which is going to teach you how to use absolutely everything in the system. So there's no point in really giving people access to 4, 5, 6 hours worth of content when really they need 45 minutes to get running. We weren't seeing 100% completion on the courses. That made sense. I wasn't expecting to see getting 100%, but people were also just kind of seeing it as too large and too daunting, and instead they were going to just not do the training as opposed to doing it. So what we did was we rebundled them up here into the different modules that you're seeing on screen. So if you're just a requester, you'll just learn about 1 and 2, which is introduction to Fi and to requester. And that's about 5 minutes worth of training, and it'll just get people ready to go so much faster than they were before. So I think organizing was a major key to our success later on now, and just giving more people access, less training, actually more beneficial to us. So in that same way, initially on the get-go, that we were providing access was just giving people a link and saying, "Hey, sign up for the training course. You got to do it." And it's easier to ignore that kind of thing if you have to go in and create your own account to go in and enroll in your course. And by the time you've created your account, maybe you're burnt out already on this, and then you're like, I'll just figure it out and not go through the training. So we also, in addition to that, when we reorganized our bundles, we hooked up with Thinkific's API. We were originally using import, but we saw that the API was going to do what we wanted to do just a little bit faster, pull less. So in using that, we can now import users to the system, give them access immediately, provide them with a password, enroll them, and add them to a group so we can progress on them. So instead of having like maybe a handful of people from a client of ours signing up for Procurify accessing the content, we can now be sure that 100% of the people have access to it. And we've taken away kind of that pain point of creating your own account. You have an account, you have a password. All you need to do is log in and complete the training, which is only 45 minutes as opposed to 7 hours.
That's 45 minutes to 7 hours is a pretty big difference.
Yeah. We saw a lot more completion and a lot more 100% as well too.
Very cool. So I just got some feedback that it is still a little bit choppy on your end. Not sure if we can adjust the mic, but just wanted to let you know.
Sure, yeah. If
Okay.
I lean in, is this a little bit better?
It's a little bit worse.
Is it a bit worse? Okay.
But thank you, Sub-Zero, for letting us know that, as well as Polly. So just to continue on, so Procurify's software benefits a lot of members within your organization. So because you're using it for procurement, anyone who is having to put any types of requests through need to have a full understanding of the system. So what have been your key learnings or tips for launching your customer education program to a larger group of users, as opposed to just when there's that one champion that needs to know the software?
Yeah, for sure. I've also switched microphones here. Is it better or worse if I do this?
I think it's a bit better.
Is it a bit better? Okay, let me know if it sucks and then I'll change it back. Yeah, to answer your question, so for launching to larger groups, there's a lot of really cool features in Thinkific we've been able to take advantage of. So I mentioned earlier, in using the API, we've been able to add users to groups. Making sure that each company have in Thinkific that's going to be accessing is split off their own company, allows us to run reports a little bit easier. It lets us track back progress, see how well people are doing, and then we can even give moderate a little bit of access to that client directly. So if they want to log in and run these reports themselves, if you have a really gung-ho client with a lot of users going to need to complete the training, this is something that we've been able to do as well too. So for our high-touch clients, we just said, go in, you only have access to your group, and run these reports yourself.
No, that's great. And that we've heard that definitely from a number of people that are using it for customer education. That group analyst role is pretty key in being able to give them the freedom and not have to micromanage and jump in.
Yeah, totally. It's really nice.
So what have been the results that you've seen since launching your customer education program?
Yeah. So like I mentioned a little bit earlier, I've been able to get so much more time back for myself, which it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophet that way, where I now have more time, which means spending less time training. I can spend more time creating. So I'm not doing the same over and over again, and we're adding on to it, doing different training. That's still running digitally by itself, but it can create more training. So that we're expanding into these role-specific trainings and these industry trainings as well too. We're now able to do more of that. We've also noticed that our new hires are a lot educated, go through the content at their own pace. So they can go back and review the content without relying on me if maybe I'm on vacation or sick or something like that, and they have a question. They can go back and watch the content without having to reach out to me or wait for a response, something like that. As well as our internal consultants, they were spending a ton of time training people externally. So clients that would come through, instead of spending that time setting up their domains and getting them running with Procurify, they now have the ability to actually set up those domains and get people running, as opposed to training end users, which really wasn't ever supposed to be a role of theirs, but just kind of naturally fell into them. And then with that as well too, just because we're actually giving consistent across the board self-led training that people can add anytime, you have to schedule 3 a.m. calls on the other side of the world, and then people that are in those calls that maybe aren't paying attention or something, they can go through at their own pace. So they're educated, which is lead better adoption for us, because we now have people that are more confident in our system. They're actually going to be able to use it, as opposed to just being like, well, you know what? It's a little bit easier just to keep doing the way before, because I use a system. Now that how to use it, adoption is definitely raised.
That's fantastic. And I can imagine, like, just knowing how our team works with our customer success and customer success managers, it also really allows them to spend a lot more time, yes, as you mentioned, supporting your customers in another way and going above and beyond, which when you're doing onboarding over and over and over again, it takes up a lot of time.
For sure. No.
So just for the next bit, I'd love to get some of your last tips. And then what I will also do is provide a demonstration of Procurify's training program so people can see it. There'll also be a link in the side so that if people are wanting to come back, it's a longer link. I won't put it in the banner, but that you'll be able to watch an example of a one of the videos that Jacob has used for both internal and external training.
Great.
Okay, so Jacob, do you have any last tips that you'd like to add before I turn on the next part?
Yeah, for sure. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier about me being my own worst critic. And coming into doing something like this, I was familiar with training people. I wasn't necessarily familiar with getting in front of a microphone and doing voiceovers and creating kind of this content that people are going to be consuming and not interacting with me directly. So I was concerned about a lot of that. I was definitely nervous to go through it. I was self-conscious about my voice, my video editing skills, kind of the overall quality content, because I can compare it to people that have been doing it for years. And obviously, I'm not going to be that when I'm starting off. So I was nervous to share with people, and I thought that people would think it was bad. But when I found out that I was sharing with people, it didn't really bother them too much. I got a ton of feedback. I got constructive feedback too. Super important for helping me get better versions and through and actually creating something that people can enjoy through. But it was totally fit. So it might be tough and it might be scary to actually start doing something like this, especially if you don't have any experience with it. But getting it set up and all that time and everything I've been able to give back to myself, give back to team, give back to every person that is going through the content training has been absolutely totally worth it. I found out the things that I was talking about didn't end up mattering very much, and as I created more and more content, naturally I got better at it well too. So you can definitely see the improvement from the first video to the latest videos created. Now I'm super comfortable doing all this stuff. That unnatural feeling at getting there, it doesn't last forever. So you'll push through it, feel normal, and the results that you see are absolutely totally worth the risk that it takes to start.
Oh, that's great, Jacob. Yeah, definitely just pull the trigger and get started. And using Thinkific, I know, was an easier platform to get going on, especially if you're not don't have a developer background. It has a very clean layout, and it's a great spot to begin your journey. And we have a customer success team that can help you if you need it. Okay, great. So now I'm going to flip over the screen to show what show a demo of the training program that Jacob built to give everyone who's watching an idea of what would be useful and how to take your customers through or employees through a full training program. Okay.
Hi, my name is Jacob, and I'm one of the trainers here at Procurify. In this short video, I'll be walking you through a general overview of the entire Procurify process, showing you how an item is requested, approved, purchased, received, and then finally added to a bill for payment processing. Once you get the hang of it, Procurify is a pretty intuitive tool that can help you and your team simplify and handle your company's spending habits. That being said, there are a lot of features included in Procurify, and I won't be able to show them all in this short video, so we'll just focus on taking a look at the general overview. At the end, if you have more questions or would like to see more of the product, I'll share some of the links to our contact forms and knowledge base, where you can get a closer look at the things I showed off in this video. With that in mind, let's get started. When I log into Procurify, I'll see my dashboard. I'll be logging in and out of different user accounts with different roles to complete this demonstration. And as I do so, the dashboard will change, updating with new order information and showing different information depending on the role that I'm logged in as. Let's start this process at the very beginning by creating a request for order. This is where everything stems from in Procurify. If I don't create requests, I can't create purchase orders, and I can't create bills. So this is obviously a super important part of the process. I'll create my new request either by clicking on Request Order, where I can see all of my pending and past order requests, and then clicking on Plus Request Order. Or alternatively, from any page, I can click on the New Request button and click on Order. Both buttons will bring me to the same page. This is where I can begin creating my request for order. In Procurify, I'll need to select a location and department to start, but if you prefer to use purchasing types or projects, your account can be set up to track spend based off of those categories instead. I can also base my approval ratings off of these selections. So you'll see that when I change my department, my next approver changes as well. So however you want your domain to be structured, we can make sure that Procurify matches your needs. I'll set my required date field to let my approver and purchaser know when I need my items by, and then enter in an order description to give a little more context as to why I'm ordering these items. After that, I can start adding items to my order request. I can do that in a number of ways. I can click on Plus New Item and fill out the details manually. I can import a list from a CSV file. I can add items directly from a supplier's website. And I can add items from my company's personal Procurify catalog. For this demo, I'll use the catalog to select some items that I know have been pre-approved as items that we can order. I'll choose a few items, and as I add them in, we can see all the information has been pre-filled for me from the catalog. So as a requester, I don't really need to do any work. I'll just click on the Add Item button, and the item is added to my order. I'll keep adding items. I've added in all the items that I'll need, so now I'm ready to submit my request. I'll make sure that my next approver is correct, and then I'll submit my request. As a requester, that's pretty much it for me. I now just need to wait for the approvers, purchasers, and receivers to finish their jobs. But if I want to check the status of my request, I can click into the order. I can send a message or a reminder to the approver, or even delete the request if I've changed my mind. I'll send a message to the approver, Angela, and then I'll log in as her so we can see how to approve this request. Now that I'm logged in as my approver, Angela, we can see her dashboard looks a little bit different than Jim's. We can see Jim's pending order approval, as well as the message that Jim sent her. Let's take a closer look at this order request sent in by Jim. I can review Jim's request, and most importantly, I can review our budgets. I want to make sure that this request doesn't push us over budget, and I can see that if I approve this request, we'll be approaching some of our budgets, but we won't be exceeding any of them. So this order can be approved without fear that I'm spending outside of our means. If the order was putting us over budget, I could deny the whole order, or I could deny single line items. I'll also want to make sure that the requester has selected the correct account codes, and if the wrong account code was selected, I can edit that item. For approvers though, usually after a quick review, making sure that our budgets and account codes are correct, all I'll need to do is click Approve. If there's another approver that needs to approve the order, I can confirm that it's going to the right person before clicking on Approve. Once all the required approvers have approved the order, a notification will be sent to the requester, letting them know that their order has been approved, and also to the purchaser to let them know that they have items that need to be purchased. Now that this order has been approved, let's log in as our purchaser and create the purchase order. Now that I'm logged in as our purchaser create, we can see the dashboard looks pretty similar, but I can see those approved items that were requested by Jim. So since I know these items are ready to be purchased, let's create a purchase order. On the left side of this page is every item that has been requested and approved, but not yet purchased in my system. If I scroll down, I can see there's quite a few things waiting for me to purchase. But for now, I'm just going to focus on the few items that were requested by Jim. To add them to my purchasing list, I'll check them each off and add them to my list. Procurify will automatically choose my vendor information, and I can create my purchase order. From here, I can review my billing information, my vendor's information, my shipping information, and any PO details. If I'm paying with a credit card, I can select it from my system, but for this order, I'm going to choose net payment terms. I can also choose any shipping terms if applicable, or a shipping method, and I can also select the promise date that my vendor has communicated to me. If I scroll down, I'll see a list of the items that will end up on the purchase order, and I can add any additional fees and taxes. For this order, I know there's going to be a 6% tax, so I'll add that on. Once I'm ready, I can create my purchase order. After my purchase order has been made, I can email the purchase order directly to my vendor, or if I want to download a copy, I can generate the PDF. This is what my vendor will see when I email them the purchase order. But back in Procurify, once my purchase order has been sent, the next step is to wait for the shipment to arrive and then receive it in Procurify. So let's log in as my receiver and see how that process works. Once I'm logged in as my receiver, I can see my dashboard is updated, telling me that a couple of items have been purchased by Creed. I can view this purchase order by going over to the Receive tab. PF26 is the purchase order that we just made as Creed. Once this order arrives, I can click into PF26 and start receiving it. If I have a copy of the packing slip, I can upload it into Procurify so I can keep a digital record. To mark something as received in Procurify, I'll enter in how many items were sent to me. In this example, let's say everything arrived all at the same time. I can fill out each box here with the quantity that was sent to me, or I can just click Accept All, and Procurify will do that work for me. Once I'm satisfied, I'll click on Receive, and our purchase order is automatically closed. So everything that was originally requested as Jim has now shown up. So it has been requested, approved, purchased, and now received. Since the purchase order was made with net 30 payment terms, the last thing for us to do in Procurify is to add these items to a bill so we can pay our vendor back. I'll log in as my accounts payable user, and I'll show you how that process works. I'm now logged in as my AP user. When an invoice arrives, I'll know I need to log into Procurify to create a bill for it. So in this situation here, our invoice has arrived from Best Buy, so let's create a bill for those items. So when I'm ready to do that, I'll move to the accounts payable section, and I'll click on Bills. From here, I can create a new bill. To start creating my new bill, I want to start by uploading my invoice. Once my invoice has been uploaded, I can use it to fill out my bill details. So I'll open it up, and I'll use the invoice to complete this process. I'll choose my vendor, and since I've already set up a payment method for paying back Best Buy, Procurify will automatically fill that in for me. After these details have been filled out, it's time to start adding items to my bill. I'll keep my invoice open as I'm doing this, and click on Add Items to view the items that can be added onto this bill. I'll search for the purchase order that I created earlier in this demo. And as I'm adding these items to my list, I'll make sure that everything matches up. So I'll confirm that the quantity and the price match up with what I have in Procurify. Everything looks good to me, and I can add these items to my bill. I can add in any final information here to my bill. Since I know these items had a 6% tax on them, I can select that here. and I can make sure that the total cost of my bill matches up with the total cost of my invoice. And since everything matches up, I can submit my bill. I can also add an approval writing to my bill. So if I want a second set of eyes to approve this before we actually process the payment, I can complete that in Procurify. But once everything looks good and my bills have been created, I can go to my approved bills, select the bills that I want to export, and I can download a CSV copy with all the bill information. Once I have that file, I can upload it into my accounting platform and process the payment as I normally would. That was a quick look at the Procurify process from request to bill creation. But like I mentioned at the start of the video, there's more to Procurify than what's just contained in this demo. If you're looking to find out more or seeing how exactly Procurify can integrate with your company, follow the links on screen or reach out to us at support@procurify.com.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Jacob. That's a really thorough and nicely laid out demo. I'm also a big fan of the fact that all of the avatars used were the office characters. Creed clearly needed some help.
Yeah. Yeah, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, just through that video, it's really clear about your pacing, tone of voice, really showing how individuals can use the platform and going on a step-by-step. And as you mentioned at the end, that was only a small piece. And if people are wanting to learn more, they definitely can. And to visit success.procurify.com for more information on that end. And then, yes, so well, thank you so much, Jacob, for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And for everyone who is watching, you can also learn more at thinkific.com/plus for information on our Plus plan, which is really beneficial for those utilizing Thinkific for customer as well as employee education. All right, well, thanks, Jacob, and I will talk to you soon.
Great. Thank you, Amber.
Bye.